And this summit is just one example of how the NGA supports the governors. This resource center for state cybersecurity has really proven to be beneficial. I remember being with my co-chair, John Bell Edwards, in Louisiana. I guess it was maybe a couple of years ago, it seems like. And the benefit from seeing all of those that are exchanging ideas on cybersecurity challenges that they face was very important for the governors to hear. And I do regret that you cannot be in person in Bentonville. Let me tell you, we would have shown you a good time, and we owe you one. So I hope that we'll be able to have you back in the future. And while we're certainly engaged in fighting COVID during this pandemic, and now with the vaccinations, we are reminded constantly of the challenge of cybersecurity threats and our responsibility to protect our systems and to protect data. And I noted the topics of the discussion for later this afternoon, and ransomware, we've all had to deal with that, cybersecurity in K through 12 schools, and cybersecurity risk management. All appropriate topics, and I know you'll be looking forward to those sessions as they are discussed. In previous years, you could say that cybersecurity was important, and it's not something that you should neglect. In fact, you could probably say that cybersecurity is very important. But today, we're way beyond that. It is not just important, but cybersecurity is in fact urgent. And I've put it in that category that we all pay close attention to it, we act on it, and consider it an urgent matter. And why is that important? You can see it illustrated in just the last year with our election year and system, and the debate about whether our systems are secure and whether they're subject to vulnerability. It has to do with the confidence of the electorate in our own systems. And so, yes, cybersecurity is important to our democracy. Whenever you look at our foreign policy and threats from outside, and if the intelligence is correct that the latest cyber attack that was organized came from Russia, then that's a matter of national security. It is a question as to how we respond appropriately and how we protect our own systems. Whenever you look at the increasing data breaches that we're all facing, we understand the urgency of the matter, because that has to do with the confidence. When you think about right now, we're having to collect data on vaccinations, we're having to collect data on testing, and we have to make sure that that data is protected, because you do not want to lose confidence in our healthcare system because of data breaches. And then the increasing ransomware attacks that are a threat, we have to know how to deal with those effectively. And so as governor, it doesn't take long to get down to things that are happening in our state. And I know we have all 50 states that are represented here. And I know each of you could talk about the stories in your state, the progress that's been made, the uniqueness of the action that you have taken. And I applaud that, and I hope that you have opportunity to share that information. But now I do want to talk about our experience here in Arkansas and how we've approached cybersecurity. And it really breaks down to the topics that you'll have this afternoon, which is the education side of cybersecurity, the economic benefits that can come from cybersecurity, and then the most practical of all, the security of our own state systems and what we're doing to protect them. One of the early decisions I had to make as governor, and I had some reluctance about it, but I learned that we did not have any cyber insurance in our state, and our wise insurance commissioner said, you need to buy it. Well, after much study and thought, we did buy it. And let me tell you, we've used it. It's been helpful. It's been an effective policy for us as we have had consistent attacks or data breaches that we've had to call upon that insurance and their assistance. And so that's an important factor that everybody needs to think about if you do not have that cyber insurance. But let me move to the first part of it, which is cyber education. And as Bill mentioned, we have a very effective computer science education program in Arkansas. I started that 6 years ago. We were one of the first states to actually mandate computer science to be taught in every high school in Arkansas. We quickly expanded that to our K through 12 grades, developed curriculum for them. And then we recognized that there's a gap if you do not have cybersecurity education as a part of that. And so we have developed cybersecurity pathways for our K through 12 students. We have utilized our industry experts as well as our education experts to adopt 3 high school pathways for cybersecurity, data science, and artificial intelligence and machine learning. Now, that's pretty exciting for high school students, K through 12, just to be exposed to those areas of study. These courses and pathways will be implemented in the 2021-22 school year around the corner, and we're working hard to get prepared for that. One of the challenges is building partners and to make sure that these offerings and the students that take these are diverse, they're across the board and not simply limited to a certain segment of the population. And that's why we've had partners with the Women's Foundation of Arkansas, Code.org, the corporate partners of Verizon, Microsoft, and Cyber.org. We've also had to increase significantly the training of our teachers. We've increased the number of certified high school computer science teachers from 20 when I became governor to over 500 in just 5 years. Now, we have more to do, more work to be done, but that is significant progress in the terms of educational offerings for our young people. In addition to our K through 12, we've also focused on higher education, and the state funded a cyber range that is at the Department of Defense level for the benefit of university students, but also so that others in K through 12 can have access to it. We also, through the University of Arkansas at Little Rock, have a cyber gym, which is an entry-level gamification that teaches real-world cybersecurity scenarios and techniques. And yes, you have to make education a little fun for the next generation. My grandson's probably a good example of that. When I started the computer science initiative, he was into basketball and he says, "I don't need this." Well, he rejected that approach. He got to college. He went to his coach and said, "I really don't like my major," which was business. And he wound up majoring in computer science, but it is game design. And so you have to have a little bit of fun to inspire the next generation. But it's also about investment in workforce education in the cyber and data security area. And so we have grown our own tech talent, our training providers from our Coding Academy to the Forge Institute, to the University of Arkansas Global Campus. We're also recruiting IT training providers to the state, such as Launch Code, Kinsey Academy, Tech Talent, and CompTIA. I was excited whenever I went to Newport, Arkansas. It's a town of 8,000 in the Delta, in the rural part of Arkansas, and they wanted to initiate a tech depot, which was in partnership with the Arkansas State University at Newport, the two-year college, and our Department of Career Services. And so that is designed to partner with industry to teach tech talent in rural Arkansas. And so it can be done anywhere to have that education part of cybersecurity and the future of protecting data and our systems. The second part of what we're focusing on in Arkansas is the economic benefit that comes from cybersecurity investments and education. And it really does come full circle whenever you can start bringing top tech companies, startup companies, seeing a talent in the state and saying, that's a good place to be located because of that talent pool. You know, it first comes in terms of of software development, and then it comes in terms of cybersecurity. One of the things that we've done, we invest $2 million every 2 years into accelerator programs, which brings top talent in the financial sector, in healthcare, in machine learning, artificial intelligence across the country to Arkansas to be mentored, to have investment opportunities, to expose their new startup business to the world of business and the industry. This has proven very successful, and without a doubt, when you bring in the financial services sector for their fintech accelerator, guess what? It's also about cybersecurity, and many of the startup companies are focusing on the greater aspects of security. Our hope is that we land some of those companies here in our state, and some of those have located here as a result of that initiative. And so the job creation side is an important recognition of the benefits of investment in cybersecurity. We also established the Arkansas Center for Data Sciences, which focuses on the protection of data, but also the use of data in our everyday world. But you cannot have investments in startup companies and data sciences if that data is not adequately protected. As Bill mentioned, we set a new task force for looking at the future of computer science and cybersecurity. One of its recommendations was that we not only offer it everywhere, but that we actually mandate computer science as a graduation credit from high school. I'm asking our legislature in the session that begins next week to adopt that requirement. I hope that we'll be successful in that. And then that leads to the final part of my opening remarks, and that is probably what each of you are the most concerned about, and that is state cybersecurity. And the first point I would make is that as a governor or as a system manager or as a department leader, the first thing you look at whenever your IT folks come to you and say, we need new systems, we need new programs to adequately protect against cyber attacks, and then you look at the price tag of that and say, wow, not sure that's in our budget. And that is a challenge for each state. And one of the things that we're looking at is how to use CARES Act funding for cybersecurity. And of course, CARES Act funding had to be tied to something COVID related. Well, whenever you're doing telemedicine and whenever you're having to teach education online, cybersecurity has an aspect to that. And so North Dakota set a good example of investing CARES Act funding in their security and IT systems. We're trying to follow that, and we ran out of time, but because Congress gave us additional time, we hope that we'll still be able to invest in some IT upgrades so that we can enhance cybersecurity in our state utilizing CARES Act funding. And so we hope to be successful, and I encourage all the states to look at that. Training of the employees is a critical element of it. And so in Arkansas, we have increased our end user reporting of malicious phishing emails and observable overall increase in awareness of cybersecurity concerns. We've emphasized that, enhanced our training, and that's a critical part of what we have to do. And then finally, we also develop teams to respond to cyber attacks. We have a cyber security disaster response team that is multi-agency that can work together in response to an attack. They're called strike teams. But we also are having a K through 12 cyber response team, again, to coordinate whenever we have an attack on a system related to our schools or education systems. These are critical that we prepare for what could happen and what we know is certainly going to happen. We have to protect our systems. We have to be auditing our systems, upgrading those, testing them, probing them, and then finally, we have to be able to make sure that we are able to respond when there is a breach. And that's the burden that is on all of us. So I'm excited about this session and the opportunity to open it up. When you look at the future of each of our states, this day will pass, and that is our pandemic, whenever we get our vaccinations out there, and this will pass. And then what will not pass, though, is the opportunities and the obstacles that we'll face together when it comes to cyber threats at the national level, at the state level as well. And we have to enhance our partnerships among ourselves and within our states. Thank you. It is great to be with you today.